But yeah, we'll give everyone a minute or two to come in and join us. And can everyone hear me okay?
Yep, you sound great.
Great. See a couple of people just joined us. We're just waiting a minute or so for everyone to come in. You'll see that there's a poll, a link on the screen to a quick 2-question poll, and I encourage you to come check it out. We have these questions set up just so we can get an idea of what brought you guys to the webinar today, and just copy the link from the chat, write it into your browser, or open up your phones, and even use your smartphone browser to check out this poll.
And I recommend keeping it open since we will be using this kind of question and answer format throughout the entire process.
Welcome everyone. I'm gonna go ahead and continue. 7:04, we got a couple of people that came in. For anyone who just joined, there is a link on screen to a poll. If you wanna take note of this link, we'll be using it throughout the webinar, because yeah, we have a couple of polls written up for all of you. Okay. Welcome, thank you for joining us. So we have prepared a boot camp for our webinar this month, and my name is Madison. I'll be presenting this material along with my co-presenter Fiona. Yeah, she's just waiting to say hello. I'm a data management assistant with ESS-DIVE. And today in this bootcamp, we'll be going over some essential tools that are necessary in order to get started uploading data, using data with ESS-DIVE. So these topics I'll be going over include how to register to get permissions to upload data on ESS-DIVE, how you can submit and publish data, how to go over the quality of your metadata, how to make sure that your data is ready for public release, and then also how to cite data off ESS-DIVE. So we just want to take a moment to strongly encourage you guys to participate. This is an interactive webinar, and so We would love it if you'd like to interrupt us with questions, participate in our polls, and in our, feel free to ask questions in our chat box below, because we do have some ESS-DIVE team members here today who can help answer your questions. So our first question today is, have you used ESS-DIVE before? So we'll be using the poll everywhere link again, which is at the top of the screen. It's also in the chat box. Let's see, and I'll just wait a little bit as results come in, because I know it takes a moment or two to navigate. We'll move on to the next slide once the results start slowing down. Oh, great.
We have about 8 responses so far.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see that we have a majority of people who haven't used ESS-DIVE yet. That's really great to have you guys here today. Okay, so we have another question. Oh, great. And if you, yeah, your responses, well, yeah, let's just go on to the next question. Let's see. Which is, which section are you most interested in learning about today? Nice. Okay, happy to see submitting and publishing data is getting a lot of love. We'll be sure to spend enough time on that slide so we can go over any confusing points or questions you guys may have. And we have one more question prepared, which is, which of the following terms are you familiar with? So it's important to us that we make sure we're conveying these terms in a way that's well understood by our users, because we want to make sure we're on the same page when we mention these terms, and they are some of the most highly used and most important terms that the ESS-DIVE team will refer to. Yeah, it's okay. It's pretty even across the board. Poll everywhere is so fun. I like seeing the percentages changing so quickly. Okay, all right, thank you guys. Okay, so now moving on to our first section. I'm going to pass this over to my co-presenter, Fiona, to introduce ESS-DIVE to our first-time users.
Absolutely. So ESS-DIVE, let's go to the next slide. So ESS-DIVE is a repository for Earth and environmental data funded by the Department of Energy and maintained by our team at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab in collaboration with the NC's group out of Santa Barbara and NERSC at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. And we store a wide diversity of environmental data types, such as remote imagery, water quality, geophysical, and model data. And we really strive to be a very supportive, or a repository that is supportive of a wide variety of different data types. Next slide. And our goal as a repository is to provide DOE-funded researchers a centralized location to store their environmental research data for long-term preservation and publication. What this means for our users is that we allow you to upload and download data and to publish data with persistent identifiers. A lot of you guys might not be familiar, or it seems like you guys might not be as familiar with that term. A DOI is a great example of a persistent identifier. It's something that will always point to your data package, and we'll go into that a little bit more later. And ESS-DIVE also allows for the ability to search public data via a wide variety of different search keywords and terms. Next slide. So we actually have a little demo here by Emily, who I think many of you will become deeply familiar with through our publication process. So here's a little video by Emily.
This is the public view of the ESS-DIVE data portal. ESS-DIVE currently hosts 396 published datasets. which you can see here in our main search listing. By going to the summary page, you can view the number and volume of published data packages, user download counts, dates of updates to data packages, file types included, and the temporal coverage of the data collection, which currently reaches back to 1841. The portal automatically sorts data packages to show the most recent publications first, but this can be changed. Multiple search features are available to promote the findability and accessibility of ESS-DIVE data, including searching by author, DOI, temporal range, or keyword. Clicking on a data package listing will bring you to a landing page with all of the included files and associated metadata. This top section contains the package citation information and the number of times the package has been cited, viewed, and downloaded by others. To the right, you can view the data files and download files of interest. But before downloading data, you must be signed in with your ORC-ID. The integration of ORC-IDs provides a unified login for users, as the unique identifiers are already in use by most researchers as a way to easily track their publications. When searching for a data package, you also have the option of using our interactive map to filter your search by location. Here's another data package and all of its associated metadata, including an abstract, keywords, related references, contact information for authors, locations, and methods. Each of these fields are required to meet our standardized metadata criteria prior to publication in order to maximize the findability and usability of these data packages.
Wonderful. That may have seemed like a lot of information, but we will be going and diving deeper into each of those different aspects so we can get everyone familiarized and hopefully make ESS-DIVE less daunting. So publishing data on ESS-DIVE, we really want to make it easy. Publication can be a really complex process, and we strive to support our users by providing materials and guides to help you through the data publication process. Online, we have all of our support documentation as well as past webinars, a number of really beautiful tutorial videos, and helpful documentation. They can all be found under the support tab on our website. And on the left, we actually, on the left, we actually have our model of how we have envisioned our data publication process. And you can see that it is very iterative. And because we understand that scientific research and development is iterative. So we really strive to support that in our publication process. Okay, next slide. Here are just a few key terms to keep in mind. As far as terms for data storage, a repository, when we refer to that, we think about it as a centralized location for the long-term storage of data. And when we say published, that means that the data has been reviewed and is made publicly accessible. So downloadable by anyone with an ORC-ID and viewable by anyone on the net. Here are a few of our publishing terms. We talk about metadata, which is the descriptive information about the data files. And data packages is kind of a term we use to refer to the combination of both data files and their corresponding metadata. A lot of you guys might not have been, it seemed like you guys weren't as familiar with the term persistent identifiers. And a persistent identifier is any sort of, as I mentioned, any sort of identifier that can be used to track that thing in perpetuity. So we use ORCIDs to track people through name changes or job changes. And it's used to kind of link, it's a permanent link for your professional activities. And we use a digital object identifier, or DOI, for data. And it will kind of be a little tag that will always point exactly where it needs to be to get a user to the data. Okay, Madison's going to take over this section on how to become a data contributor.
Thank you, Fiona. Okay, so I first want to mention why this step is necessary. So as Emily mentioned in our demo video, we all need to log in with an ORCID ID in order to start downloading data on ESS-DIVE. So we're all able to search through and tab through ESS-DIVE without needing to log in, but if you need to use the data at that point, you'll need your ORCID ID. And you can start getting that data offline. But you'll find if you click the Submit Data button at the top of the screen, you won't have immediate permission. And you'll see this image that we have on the slide here. So in order to start uploading data, you simply need to click the request upload access button, and it'll take you through our process for registering as a data contributor. So as I mentioned, you first need to log in to create your account, because you won't be able to immediately access the form if you don't already have an account on ESS-DIVE. So that's step one. And then after logging in, you can navigate to the contributor form through various ways. We also have a support tab on our main webpage, so you don't necessarily need to navigate to the submit data button first. And then once you complete our form, you just need to wait for a response from our team, because we will be evaluating the information that you've given us on your form to determine if you have the necessary permissions to allow you to upload data on ESS-DIVE. And that email that you receive from us will either have instructions, confirming your confirmation, or it'll be a polite email nonetheless. So I'll be showing you a quick demo of what the form looks like and the complete process. But before that, I just want to go over 2 questions in our form, which have received confusion in the past. So these 2 questions are related to the DOE project affiliation and the project or primary or lead principal investigator for your DOE project. So we understand that we don't always know off the top of our heads what the full title of our project is, because maybe we have a shorthand, maybe some abbreviation, some term that you just use with your colleagues. And so you're not certain of the term that's the project name that has been registered with ESS-DIVE. Similarly, we understand that there are many people who take on the role of a principal investigator, and they're not necessarily the principal investigator that is responsible for the funding, the funding grant for your DOE project. So we actually have a list that we link to called ESS-DIVE's project list, and here we provide that information for you, so you can scroll through or use Control Find in order to locate your DOE project. And next to the DOE project, you'll see the principal investigator, and those are the terms that we need for this form. You'll notice that there's hyperlinks here and detailed instructions to help step you through it. And our final point about these 2 questions are that the DOE project is going to be your data package publisher. And we'll go into this a little more later, but ESS-DIVE is not the publisher for your data package. It's actually going to be the project which funded the data. So now we'll jump into a registration demo. You'll see that Emily is not here with us in this demonstration. I'll be giving you a voiceover. So I just clicked the submit data button and walked through that image that you saw on screen now. So here it was asking me to sign in with my ORCID ID, and we have a link to the registration. It's really quick, it's 3 steps. It'll take you under 5 minutes, and as Emily and Fiona have mentioned, it's a useful tool to have this ORCID account. It's totally free, and it can link all of your professional activities together. So now that I've logged in, I've clicked the request access, and we are now looking at the form. And there's just a couple of questions here. You'll notice that we have links for anything that may not have information offhand, such as your ORCID ID number, which you can find by going to the ORCID ID website to your account. And then here on screen, you're seeing the project list. And maybe you don't see the text, but there's plenty of information here. The headers are very clear, and I think you'll have an easy time finding your project information. Following this, we just have 3 more questions. The last 2 are pretty interesting because they'll help you join our community mailing list. I believe those of you here today are already a part of our community mailing list, but for any of your colleagues who are registering for the first time, that will be a great opportunity for them to join us in our community mailing list. Okay, so our next section is about creating and submitting data packages. So now that you're registered, maybe you're wondering, what is a data package? Because you just want to upload your files online. As Fiona mentioned, this is a combination of data files and metadata. And essentially, when you click on a link on a data link on ESS-DIVE, it'll take you to this page, and you'll find that all of the information is in one place. You don't need to go to separate locations in order to find all the data files. You'll find, if you uploaded 13 data files, you'll see all 13 right here. And you'll also see all the author information, all your identifiers, your abstract, everything will be on this page, and you simply need to scroll through it. A little more detail. So the metadata, it effectively will explain your data files without anyone needing to open the data files and search through it. So it tells what the content and scope of the data files are at a glance. A little more detail about what goes into a data package. So you can include information that, so our data files are typically associated with a paper that we've published recently. And so you can include all data from that publication in this file. You can use our abstract to explain how this data relates to your publication. You can mention when the data was collected, describe the field campaign, the time period. You can inform us what us and our users, what the data types are, sensor data, sample data, and how it relates to your project. And you can also include all of the authors, all the people who have contributed to that data's generation, its collection, its analysis. All their names can go into our data package.
And just to pipe in here, it is very much up to the project to decide kind of how they want to design what goes into a data package and what they feel are the limits. And these are just kind of our different suggestions of how you can put your data into a nice little container and decide how you want to organize them.
Thanks, Fiona. Okay, so in order to get your data from your desktop onto our website and published and available to anyone, you first need to start off by clicking that green Submit Data button. It'll take you to a blank data file, a blank data package, and we'll show you what that looks like in a bit in our demo, but you'll simply see a lot of blank fields, which you'll just need to fill out. So I think the important thing I want to point out is that you don't need to worry too much at this stage. We have some fields with some asterisks on them, and those are the real important ones you just need to fill out quickly. Or, you don't have to do it quickly. If you're short on time, you just want to get it done, you can quickly fill it out. You can upload a couple data files at this stage. And the important thing is to fill out the sections with the asterisk and to hit the Submit Dataset button. On the next screen here, I'll give you a close-up of what this page looks like. So we have a green button on top, which you saw in our previous demo, which allows you to start your submission process. This screen here is what a draft or an edit session looks like for a data package. And you'll notice there's a big button for adding files. And you see a little bit at the bottom there of where you can insert your title for the data package. And notice it does have a red asterisk next to it. So that's one of the fields that you would need to fill out before you hit the Submit Data Set button on the bottom of the screen, which allows you to save your submission.
And we have gotten feedback on that. A number of users find that a little bit confusing, and we are taking in that user feedback and working on making the buttons a little different so that it is very clear, but you do click the bottom Submit Data button to save your data to ESS-DIVE.
Yes, thank you, Fiona. So as we mentioned, this is at this point, you don't need to worry about what your data package looks like. All you need to worry about is that there is some text in those red asterisk fields, and at that point, you'll be fine to hit the Submit Dataset button. And this is, at this point, this is when you take advantage of the revision section of our publication process. And this is when you can, close your tabs, collect more information, spruce up your data files. You can come back to your data package later and start adding in and completing your data package over time. And every time you do this, you would simply need to hit the Submit Dataset button in order to save your progress. So after you've revised, consulted with your teammates, however, whatever you need to do in order to get your data package metadata together, you'll start to need to worry about making that data package complete, because you're just about ready to hit the Publish button. So you'll want to go through your data files, make sure the names make sense, that your data looks good, that your metadata is complete, and we will talk about how to make your metadata more complete later on in this webinar. But the first one thing I want to point out at this point is that we have a assessment report button that will be at the top of the screen when you're in a data package edit session. And this assessment report will allow you to get a quick idea of what your data package metadata satisfies, and maybe where it can be improved. But again, we'll have more on this later. So once you think your data package is complete, you'll select the green Publish button, and that will take you to our next section, which we'll get to in a second. But first, let's just do a quick demo to step through what it looks like when you're starting a new data package.
You can choose to submit data either through our web form or API. Extensive documentation is available to walk you through both processes, but for today, we'll focus on our web form. This top line will become your data package citation, which is auto-filled as the title, authors, and project fields are completed. This middle section is where you can upload your data files. Our metadata fields, as shown on the public data package examples, include a combination of free text and drop-down menus in order to ensure comprehensive and findable metadata. Notable ESS-specific metadata fields include project affiliation and data licensing. You can click the Submit button once all required fields, which are indicated with red stars, have been completed. Submitting your dataset saves it privately, as indicated by this orange lock.
Thank you, Emily. Okay. I just want to check okay. So one more thing I want to leave you with before we move on to our next section is that we have a number of resources to read up on our submission and publication process. And we also have something we call Sandbox, which is a slightly different website from our main repository. And it's essentially, it looks exactly the same as our main webpage, except that in Sandbox, you can essentially upload anything you want. You don't need to register beforehand. You can register as a data contributor, but if you don't hear a response from us right away, you can just go to Sandbox anyway and try out uploading data, and it won't be made public ever. And you can kind of just see what the process is like and just get a feel for it before going onto our main webpage. Before we go on to our next section, I just wanted to check the chat just to see if there's any questions about the publication process that we want to go over at this time. Fiona, did you see anything in the chat? I see that we... Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen, there have been a few questions in the chat relating to the role of ESS-DIVE, but our team has been able to answer those. So keep coming in with other questions. If people want to send them in, just slide them across the table and our team will answer them in the chat box.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now that we talked about how to create a data package, also how to search for data packages, let's take a moment to discuss how we will cite our data packages and also others' data packages. So we saw in this demo a quick mention about data licensing. So we want to mention that all our data packages have one of two data usage rights that you are agreeing to in order to make your data publicly accessible. You'll see more details on this when you create your data package, or if you head to our main webpage, we also have some information on this as well. But these two, you can either select Creative Commons attribution, which is our default, or public use. And these are what determine the citation permissions of your data package. When you select a data package that has already been made public, you'll find the data usage rights printed all the way on the bottom of the data package. So when you need to cite a data package for your for either your own paper or some research that you're doing, it's really easy to do. We actually have a copy citation button that you can select, and this button will just copy the full citation directly to your clipboard. So the next time you hit paste, it'll be right there. And as this little blurb says at the bottom, the citation is generated automatically based on your metadata fields. So depending on how you write your metadata fields, such as author order, that will determine your citation, which is part of referring back to our points about the DOE project affiliation. This is kind of where that comes into play, because your DOE project affiliation does appear in your citation. And then one other very cool point about citations on ESS-DIVE is that every citation has a citation metric associated with it. So this is separate from the citation button, the copy citation button, and this records the number of times your citation has been, your data has been cited before. We want to mention that they're not fully accurate because we don't get this information from all publishing journals, but this does track citations on ESS-DIVE itself, and I believe PaperCite. I'm not fully certain on that, but it's a really great feature. Okay, so I'll be passing this over back to Fiona to talk about what happens after you hit that green publish button.
Thank you so much. So if you go to the next slide. So once you actually hit that publication button, the ESS-DIVE automated system will send you an email to confirm that we've received it, and that will start a ticket in our system so that we're aware, and we'll begin our review process shortly after that. During the review process, the ESS-DIVE team will look through your data package based on the criteria that we've put forward in our documentation, which we'll mention later. And we will review based on looking at metadata quality and trying to figure out, and working with you to figure out the best way to make your data package the highest possible quality. And we'll communicate with you via email, via the email that you gave us during the registration process. And we'll email both the dataset contact and submitter. So whatever emails are in the metadata and in your registration form, we'll be using those. So make sure they're ones you actually check. And then once it has been approved and you've made any required changes, it's made public and we assign it a DOI. If you have a DOI, we can also label the data package with your DOI. And once it's been made public, it is fully accessible and downloadable on ESS-DIVE. So again, I think a lot of people were familiar with what a DOI is, and I'm just really hammering the point home. DOIs are persistent identifiers that are used to cite data most often in our current digital age. And like ESS-DIVE, most other journals do assign DOIs to papers when they're published. Assigning DOIs to data is actually a much newer concept, but it really supports the open data movement and really supporting data as a publishable item. So we're really excited to be supporting that in that development in the scientific field. So from your end, as I mentioned, submitters and dataset contact will receive emails from us. Those will be the automated confirmation email, as well as any requests for revisions to the data package. And usually we try to make sure that the review starts within 2 to 3 business days, and we try to get them out the door within about 2 weeks is our kind of average. It really depends on how responsive the user is. We've seen publications fly by in less than a couple hours on a really, really good day. So working with our team is really important during the revision process. So when you receive an email, it'll kind of look like it is up top in that email subject line. You'll see our ticket number, which is just really used for our ability to track it. And it will have the title of your data package. It says ESS-DIVE publication request, and then the title of your data package. You may actually be receiving emails from our team members. So people like Hashem or Emily will be emailing you. So make sure to look out for those names in your inbox. And once we have reviewed it, we'll send you a personalized message. We use some automated methods to review the data package, but we do write to you personally and kind of construct our recommendations based on your needs, and we communicate with you and try to make sure that the requests we're making are flexible and that we are supporting you as data providers. And then once all of those revisions are done, the package is made public with a DOI, and you'll receive an email with the new DOI. Sometimes we mint DOIs with OSDI, so a DOI may take up to a day to publish. They publish around midnight Eastern, I believe. So your DOI will work by the next day after it's been made public. And after publishing, revisions are possible. As I mentioned at the top, we understand that research is iterative. So for minor data package changes, we totally encourage those. For changes to the metadata, or if you found a typo in one of your data files, we encourage those sorts of changes. Fixing file headers, errors, maybe you forgot someone's name in the author information. We encourage those sorts of changes. We hope you get them on the first time. As Madison mentioned, try to publish the most complete version of your data package, but we understand that sometimes things might not happen the way we expect them. Metadata changes are made instantly and are instantly available to the public. We don't end up reviewing metadata changes, so keep your metadata changes up to our standards. Hopefully don't delete your whole abstract. But data file additions do have to be reviewed just to make sure that there's no viruses or anything, any malware. I trust all of you, but it's still just important for us to make sure that we're putting out safe data files. So data files will be reviewed after publication, just a heads up. For major changes to your data package, we really encourage people to create a new data package. We would rather a DOI, if somebody cites your data package, we want the analyses they did to be reproducible. So we don't encourage major revision changes, removing and replacing all of your data. We don't encourage that. Oh, changing author list. If someone leaves your project, please don't change the authors on your data package. That would be if you have created new data since that person left your team, please create a new data package for that new data. If you have a new field campaign, please create a new data package for that. We really do want any research created on your data to be reproducible, and modifying what the data package is at its core really does kind of limit reproducibility for research.
Fiona, the one caveat to that is that ESS-DIVE does let you keep the same DOI for continuous data. So if you have major updates to a continuous time series, like a sensor stream, you can keep the same data package and the same DOI. So that's sort of it's considered a major change, but you can still keep the same DOI and the same data package.
Thank you, Charu.
And for confusing caveats like that, the ESS-DIVE support team is always here to talk it through with you to determine what the best course of action is. Okay, so in our next section, we're going to address that assessment report we previously mentioned and talk how you can independently review your metadata and become more confident that it is ready for publishing. Okay, sorry, some animations are here. Okay, so why is it important to provide submission metadata? So this is like at the core why we provide these tools and why we have a review process. And Fiona has been hammering the point, but I will do it again. We want data to be fair, to be reusable, to be findable, accessible, interpretable, and metadata really helps achieve that, especially how when you're searching through ESS-DIVE itself, metadata makes it easier to find your data. So having clear keywords, having clear titles, all of your words that appear in your data package can be used as search terms on ESS-DIVE. So what exactly are the metadata requirements? So we require the metadata to help users understand your data files and to interpret the data, because when they download your data files, they may not necessarily understand it without the important context that your metadata provides. So some important points, like some important things that metadata should do are it should fully explain data without need of further reference that is not inside your data package. It should make your data useful from both a scientific and a public perspective. So overuse of, as the next point says, avoid undefined acronyms and project-specific terms. Things like that wouldn't really make it as useful from a public perspective because they may not understand the jargon that you're using. And very importantly, it should provide author contact information because if anyone has questions about your data package, it's really important that they should be able to reach out to you to discuss that further. And of course, and so one thing that we didn't get to see in any of our demos is that there is a methods section for our data packages. And so this will allow you to talk more about how the data itself was generated. And this may be information that you don't necessarily include in your related publication because it is data specific and not necessarily specific to the research project itself. So this gives you an opportunity to present that to the public. So in addition, we mentioned that we have some documentation online that is a resource for users. And in our documentation, we have a metadata quality, guidelines. And this provides full descriptions of the metadata fields that you'll find in a data package edit session or in a public data package. It'll just explain in as much detail as we can what is required of each field and gives you an example as well to give you a better idea of how you can present your metadata. So in these guidelines are separated by the sections, so like by title, abstract, methods, geographic description. Each one of those fields has is broken down into 4 descriptive parts, which is the format that describes what input we expect to see in the field, such as free text, our data usage rights is multiple choice. Our next option is, our next description is the description of the metadata field itself. And this is where we'll include instructions and full expectations for that field. Then we'll see an example. And finally, the last field is the JSON LD field name. And this is important to anyone who is interested in or is currently programmatically uploading data onto ESS-DIVE using our package service API. We won't be going into the API in this webinar, but you can expect to see more information on that in future webinars. And if you're curious already, you can go to our documentation. You'll see the link on screen here, and you can look more into our package service API there. So here I'm showing you a screenshot of our assessment report. This is the button I showed you in the beginning of the webinar. And this is how you can get an idea of how your metadata checks out. So you can look at this assessment report at any time. You can look at it when your data package is private, well before you hit the publish button, and you can check it out after you hit the publish button. And the text may be too small, but I believe you may be able to see that we have a green, yellow, red, and blue bars on screen. The green one informs you that you have passed the check. So in this case, this particular data package has passed 13 of 14 checks. And they'll notice if the yellow and blue bars inform them more about that one check or that one field that they did not pass immediately. In this case, they did not fail any checks. They passed our minimum requirements, but our warning and our informational checks will inform you how you can improve that field and make it even better. So with that, we have gone through all the major talking points in our webinar today. We want to point out just a couple. Oh yeah, so we want to point out a couple of things that we'll be showing in future webinars. As I just mentioned, we will be talking more about the package service API in the coming months. We also are going to go through a new feature we got earlier this year called portals, also called customizable data portals, and this helps you organize your either your data collections, your data files that you have on ESS-DIVE. You can pull in data files from any data files that are on ESS-DIVE. We'll go into that in detail more in the future. We'll discuss more about community reporting formats. If you caught our webinar from the other month, maybe you've already learned a little bit about the reporting formats, but we will be coming back to that into the near future. And we will be discussing ESS-DIVE's newest community GitHub, which allows you to review and comment on those data reporting formats. So we're really excited to discuss this more in the future and present this material. So at the end here, we actually have 2 more questions for you now that you've seen everything, gone through the bootcamp and seen our most essential tools. So we would like you to go back to the poll everywhere //ESS-DIVE and participate in this once again. We have one more question following this. And yeah, we're really curious to know if at this point when you think you'll start submitting data to ESS-DIVE. That's exciting. I could we get another number of people who will be submitting it this year, or well, not 2020, but within 12 months. Okay, see the responses slow down. I'm going to head over to our second question, which is going to appear. Okay. So this is not a multiple choice question. We'd like to know what are some topics you'd like to hear more information on, and feel free to enter any of the topics we covered today, any of the topics we mentioned that we will cover in the future, and anything that comes to mind. We're really curious to know what your interests are and what your needs are and what you want to learn more about.
Once we have a few submissions in there, if you see one you like, you can give it a +1. So if anyone wants to throw some ideas in there, we'd love to hear what you want to learn more about. Love seeing interest in the API. I think, Chari, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that's on the that's on the docket, right?
That's for the next webinar. We'll be covering some of our advanced features, the API, the portals, a number of things that many of you have asked in the chat. So this was the more basic webinar for new users, and the next one will be a bit more targeted for slightly advanced users. So if any of you are interested in that, I'd encourage you before the next webinar, which will be usually towards the end of November. We'll just have to work around Thanksgiving. Before that time, to just play around with our sandbox, get a little bit more familiar with the ESS-DIVE, because it'll just make much more sense if you've at least tried on our sandbox, and a bit more familiar with our fields at that point.
Okay.
Why don't we, I think our next slide is just a question slide. So why don't we keep this slide open?
Yeah.
So we can keep having that filter in. So feel free, if you want to ask any questions, you can unmute yourself, or you can absolutely ask them in the chat if you'd like. And this can be questions about the topics we covered today, or more broad questions in any topic that you have that you want answered. Doesn't have to be related to today. It could be something related to your future relationship with ESS-DIVE.
I think Emily had a comment regarding the metadata guidelines. Emily, if you want to explain what you were trying to say in the chat, there's a lot to process there.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I just wanted to add a few notes about our metadata guidelines. So we created these through a very long process of researching kind of requirements of similar repositories, also journal requirements, and then multiple rounds of community feedback and collaboration. And these guidelines are implemented on every single data package that requests publication through ESS-DIVE. So it's a standardized set of guidelines. And our publication review process combines both a manual and automated process. So the automated checks are what are shown by the assessment report. And then the manual checks are basically what is going to be like if you publish or request to publish a data package and you get feedback from me over email, those are the manual checks. So the automated checks are shown by the assessment report. These are checks like the title and abstract length, anything that we can automate. And so the completeness of required fields is a big part of that. And as Madison said, the main purpose of this assessment report is to help expedite the publication process. So we really, really highly recommend taking advantage of this and checking the assessment report before requesting publication, because it'll really help to speed up that process.
Thanks, Emily. That's a really excellent addition. Yes, so Chara just mentioned in the chat that you can ask us questions by mailing our support team at ESS-DIVE-support@ldl.gov. I wanted to mention that we typically respond to these, any support messages you send in, we respond in less than 3 days. We prioritize responding it within 24 hours, but you will receive a response from us shortly after sending that in. You'll actually be seeing a lot of me if you email us at that address.
We also do have some socials. Joan just shared our Twitter. We also have, as we mentioned, a YouTube channel. I'll throw that into the chat, where we do have a number of different videos that might help you kind of walk through at your own pace and kind of use the information that we discussed here, and that will show you a little bit more. Oh, thank you. Okay, so prepared.
Yeah. We don't have the YouTube link because it was a little messy, but we will be making these slides. So you've seen a lot of hyperlinks throughout this presentation. These slides will be available for download on our webinar section of our website. So these will be accessible after the presentation's over in case you want to refer back to this. And you will kind of want to use this as a tool as you're going through either registering, publishing, reviewing, or citing data. Yeah, this will be another tool for you to use.
Well, if there aren't any questions, if there are any questions anyone's willing to or wants to pipe up with right now, oh, will the slides be available for us? Absolutely. We're going to be, first we have to remove the polls since we're going to be closing those. But we will be posting them on the ESS-DIVE website at ess-dive.ldl.gov, where we actually have all of our we have the videos of all of our previous tutorials as well as the slides. Thank you, Charu. Charu's just put the link to the webinars in the chat, and you can find all of our previous webinars. And we will have a video, both the video and the slides of this up shortly. We hope that it'll be useful to you, that you can come back to it and feel more comfortable with the ESS-DIVE. We really hope that we've, Halloween's in a few days, so we hope we've made it a little less spooky. I think with that, if you do have any questions, I think we're going to wrap up, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to email us at support. If you need walkthroughs one-on-one, we're happy to provide those, whether it's via Zoom or via email. We're here to support you. So I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you to Madison for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I hope you guys all have a lovely rest of your day.
Happy Halloween early. Love that joke, Piano.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. Bye everyone.